Our next speaker, Carrie, I had a guy tell me about a year ago that Brent and I were like an old married couple. We can finish each other's sentences because we have done 127 camps together. And I think, what was it, about a year ago, Brent, you missed your first camp. You had something. I think it was the draft coming up and you had to miss it.
During the draft.
And Brent goes, Brent come to me and goes, have you ever heard of Wally Pipp? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you're not going to Wally Pipp me, are you, with Brent Strom? With Flint Wallace. He thought Flint was going to come in and Brent was going to not, but no, that didn't happen at all. But I got the joke anyway. Brent's going to go 2 sessions. He interpreted that I was going to give him 1, and I don't know how that got misconstrued, but he's always had 2. But so he's rallied the troops and created 2. As the way he does, and he makes some adjustments. But I'm gonna brag on him a little bit. Not only is he a dear, close personal friend, but I believe he is a national treasure. He really. There's so few people in the pro game that are as curious as Brent Strom is, and I've always appreciated that about him. And he has been willing, because the pro game, if there's anything that is new or that you get out there too much in front with the pro game, you end up with the arrows in your back because you're not supposed to be too different. And Brent's been able to have the personality and the wherewithal and the courage to get out in front and not be afraid to be a little bit different. And he is going to share with you pretty much the lower half. Is that not correct, Brent?
Yeah, plus some other items. Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant stuff. It's very, very important stuff. And he's going to challenge your thinking on the lower half and how important it is. And so he's going to do a presentation, and then we're going to have a quick tape change. No time, so you don't have time to have much time, just five minutes at tops to change the tape, and then back, and then we'll take another break before I come up and do the final presentation. So the next break is going to be very, very short, so don't go very far. So please welcome the pitching coach of the Houston Astros, Brent Strom.
Well, first of all, thanks, Ron. I originally thought I only had 1 session. I ended up going to one of those Radio Shack. I hope this thing works. First time I've ever used it. Usually I've been using Spring over here to move my slides, so I'm going to try and move this thing along as best I can. Basically, I thought I had 1 session. I had made about 40 slides. About 2 days before the camp, I get an email from Sam telling me I'm speaking on Saturday and Sunday, and I went, whoa, time out here. What's going on? I had 48 hours to kind of rally a little bit. I went deep into the archives of my computer. I found places, I don't know computer stuff very well. I didn't know there was a difference between documents and my documents. And so last night, I'm about 11 o'clock, Carrie's asleep, my wife Carrie, and I find this thing called My Documents opened up. And I saw some Casimir stuff in there that I'm going to share with you that I thought was relevant to the talk. I just kept adding stuff to it. And so hopefully it's a wide range of things. We're going to talk about some things that I've learned. I'm going to acknowledge some people that have really helped me. And so we should have some fun. I made a couple notes as we go. Let's see. This was something I want you to watch. This is a video analysis, and it can be a little dangerous especially when you throw down in the zone. Okay? This was told. You guys can't see over there. I came down for coffee this morning, and Lloyd Lee, my partner in crime over here from Arkansas, said, you got to show this thing, okay? So I got it sent to Mr. Randy Sullivan, doing what we all do, is trying to get the best angle we can and doing videotaping. So he's about 35 feet away from a young left-handed pitcher And again, this is the problem when you throw down. When you try and throw down in the zone, this stuff happens. Okay, I mean, if he would just work on what Perry talks about, elevating a little bit, this never would have happened. But he got drilled pretty good. Let's watch it one more time. You can see him now. He doesn't go completely down, but it's a downhill, bam,
Okay.
and he's done. Okay, so, and that's what you got from it right there. Okay, you know, so. I tell you what we don't do sometimes. I've done some crazy stuff myself. You know, it befuddles me how people can do pitching lessons. I used to try and do this to save a buck when I was really scuffling, and I'm trying to save $1, so I don't want to pay some kid $8 to catch, and you're trying to catch and teach at the same time. You know, and you got your left-handed glove here like this, and the guy starts to wind up, and you're watching to see if he's going to prematurely step across his body, and by that time the ball's 8 feet away from you. You can barely catch the ball. You know, you go, holy shit, what am I doing here? The pad, gentlemen, the pad back there is what you got to get. Okay, the pad solves everything. You know, so you don't have to worry about it. A couple things I wanted to bring up. I got a text this morning from Jill, Ron's wife. She said, keep it clean. Okay, because if this was if Jill was not involved here and this was just all guys, I got some stuff that would just. I mean, it'd be like a fraternity party around here with stuff I got, okay? So I got to keep it somewhat clean as we go. Dingleberry, that starts it out right there. Now, why I added this while I was sitting on the couch over there, because I have to put a shout out to my wife, Carrie. She's been a major force in my life. As most of you may know, I was out of the game for a couple years, and we had a dog store. And my job for 2 years was to clean dogs' assholes, okay? My job, as she was grooming the dogs, I would have to bathe them, and sometimes, you know, they get a little cruddy back there, and if soap doesn't do it, I'd take scissors and I'd be cutting that stuff off. And there's your Houston Astros Major League pitching coach right there, okay? When we want to work on control and command, this is one of my favorite slides. You know, we talk about the four. When I work at Ron's camps or at the ranch, I always ask the question about what's most important to pitch at the highest level. I give the young people 4 options: velocity, control and command, ability to change speeds, and ball movement. And we play a game with it. And invariably, I ask and see which one's the most important too. In my opinion, to pitch at the highest level for a long period of time is control and command and the ability to change speeds. Because most of these kids come here for velocity, as you're well aware, as the ranch keeps transforming itself. Arm health becomes the number 1 thing. Ability to throw something secondary pitches over the plate, number 2. Velocity, number 3. And number 4, mindset. And in many regards, mindset's probably number 1. And when we talk about it. However, you know, the velocity, I'm not discounting velocity. Obviously, you have to have a baseline of velocity. You can't throw, it's pretty hard to throw a changeup off a 62-mile-an-hour fastball, okay, to good hitters. Because all they do is just reverse their thought process and say, I'm just going to sit on the change and I'll adjust to the fastball because it's just not enough juice. So this was a study they did in Amsterdam where these men go into the urinal at the train station in Amsterdam, and there was a lot of spillage. And so what they did, they figured if they put if you look real closely, there's a little fly about arm side down and away for the left-handed pitcher. And any of you guys that have gone to urinals know how we stand there, and sometimes we just kind of move the sunflower seed around and move the cigarette butt around and things like that. And so that's how you work on your control, okay? All this stuff about EV and mechanics and pitch selection and framing, that's all bull. Really, this is how you get your pitches right here, okay? This is how you get them. And once you know, this guy is worth his weight in gold right here, okay? So I wish you guys could maybe, if you want to get a better look, maybe over here. I apologize, just the way the thing's set up. Acknowledgements. It's really, you know, obviously I'm going to acknowledge there's some people I want to that surprisingly are here. Here's one of my left-handers I had when I was with the Expos, Ruben. He's pitching coordinator for the Indians right now. He told me he's been with them for 14 years. I told him, you either are the greatest pitching coach in the world or you don't teach shit, okay? to last for 14 years with one. I haven't lasted longer than 6 years with any one organization before I've gotten fired, okay? So you're either doing something right, Ruben, I got to learn from you, or you just don't ever say anything, and they don't know what you teach, okay? So that's one. The other one is Scott Mitchell. Where are you at, Scotty? You here? There's Scott Mitchell. I had Scotty. He was one of my pitchers with the Expos. Back in the day, we won a AA championship. Scotty was a right-hander, good control and everything. We went to the scuff ball, and he ended up being a major part of our championship team in Harrisburg that year. And I always like to tell, one of the 3 best pitching coach jobs I've ever done in my life, one of them was the teaching guys how to scuff. Shane Reynolds' career blossomed when he learned how to scuff the baseball, and basically is a thing called misattribution. You use it in practice unless you want to do it in the game, and I'll show you how to do that. But basically, most of our information comes through our eyes, and if you scuff a baseball and work with it, you can get the ball to sink, and pretty soon it's amazing the way the body is. It starts to make the appropriate movement that you've been seeing with the scuff baseball. I actually tell guys, try and throw the scuff baseball straight. It actually starts to move over time. They start to make that appropriate movement, so that's one of the things that I do. The second one, one of my better days was what did I have here? I had bowel movement. One of my best pitching coach jobs was regarding a bowel movement, if you can believe that or not. I was in Kansas City, pitching coach for the Royals. We were playing the Yankees, and many of you heard this story. When I put these presentations together, I walk a fine line between the guys that are new and the guys that have been here before. And I don't want to be redundant, but for the new guys, I want you to kind of get an idea of what this is all about and what we do. And we have a lot of fun doing it. We're beating the Yankees 1-0 in Kansas City. We've got 50,000 people there. They're there to see the Yankees, of course, not us. Posada, my guy Dan Reichert, who was my number 3 starter, he was an alcoholic diabetic. That should tell you a little bit about him. And he goes out there and he's walked 9 guys in 8 innings. Actually 7 1/3 innings. He's walked 9 guys, giving up 1 hit. We're winning 1-0. He's in and out of trouble. He walks 2 guys in a row, throws 8 pitches. Balls are bouncing and hitting the screen and everything. So Muser, my manager at the time, says go out and talk to him. I didn't know what to say to him. I'm not going to go out there and tell him, you're 8 degrees inside your elbow here. Let's get back out to 7 or whatever, And so I walked out and I said, and the catcher comes out. I said, Danny, we got to get this guy out. It was Posada. And I said, Danny, we got to get this guy out. And as Ron is wont to say, that's the pitching coach as a pitcher. That's why Ron never understood pitching. Well, tell me something I don't know. Obviously, I got first and second, 1 out. I got Posada coming up, and I haven't thrown a ball close to the strike zone. I said, no, you don't really understand. You got to get him out. And he says, well, yeah, I know. I said, no, you got to get him out in a hurry. He said, a hurry? Why? I said, I got to take a crap so bad, man. I got to go to the bathroom. And he starts laughing. The catcher starts laughing. And now I know I got him. Now I know I got him. So I turn around in front of 50,000 people and I pinch my asshole and I walk off the mound like this. And he throws a sinker, gets a ground ball double play. We're out of the inning. And Muser says, what'd you say to him? And I say, yeah, man, you don't want to know what I said to him, okay? And then the last one's one of my favorite ones. It says beer and porn. Okay, this is a young man that Mitch remembers named Jason Baker. Jason Baker was a hard-throwing right-hander out of Midland, Texas, through 97, 98, kind of a country boy. His first spring training, big league camp, he gets to go to spring training in Jupiter. And the way, and Mitch will remember this, the way the mounds are located, there's the mounds, there's a fence where the home plate is, and the fence behind the catcher. Then there's another fence that separates Vladimir Guerrero's Mercedes on the other side of the street. Well, Baker airmails a ball over the first fence, over the second fence, and shatters Vladimir Guerrero's windshield on his brand new Mercedes. He's done. He can't throw a strike from then on. He's nervous and everything. So we're in Harrisburg for a game, and when you only have 3 coaches in pro ball, the pitching coach usually hits the fly balls to the outfielders, and the manager's watching infield going on, and the hitting guy's hitting infield. And so I'm hitting fly balls, and I look to my right, and it's 6 o'clock, and the game starts at 7. And here's Baker. He's the starting pitcher that night. He's already on the mound practicing dry throws an hour before. I'm going, oh boy, we're in trouble tonight. So I took him behind the right field wall. Mitch will remember it. There was an old shed back there where the grounds crew stayed in there, and it had a couch that looked like, a lot of stuff had been done on that couch. And I gave him a can of beer, and we threw a porno film on the thing, and he sat there and he drank half that. He threw a 2-hit shutout that night. Okay? And what I did was I coated the frontal lobe of his brain, and he just relaxed. And then I was worried that we'd have to go to heroin and cocaine, and I didn't know where we were going to go with that. So anyway, the other guy I have to mention is DJ, pitching coordinator for the Cubs. I really got to hand it to DJ. He took a 50% cut in pay to become the pitching coordinator for the Cubs. Unbelievable, man. To drop down that far in salary because he loves the professional game so much, it's unbelievable. I mean, DJ, I got to hand it to you. I mean, of course, when you got Price and Gray rolling in your front door, what the hell do you have to teach, man? You just got to sit there and just roll with it and ride it as long as you can. So nice job there. And lastly, kind of a surprise there. Kind of a surprise that came. Kyle Snyder was he's pitching coordinator for the Tampa Bay Rays. Pitched for me while he was at Kansas City, and of course my amigos. Okay. So I just wanted to acknowledge that a little bit. Main points, sabermetrics. Kind of a strange little word that everybody uses. My time here I will say one thing about my short time with the Astros. They have 4 PhDs in this room up there. Flint, of course, he turned me down for the 8th time already because I tried to get him into pro ball. But he knows what I'm talking about. Because you go into this room down here at Minute Maid, and you ever see that commercial where there's this guy at this big chalkboard, and the professor walks around and he looks and he says, "You've solved the secret thing that nobody." He goes, "Where do you teach?" He says, "No, my daughter's in the dance school, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express." That's what these places look like. He's got numbers up there and stuff that's unbelievable. So I'm using them as best I can. And what we're trying to do here is have a reverse thing. Rather than me, when we talk about the delivery and creating a result, I'm using the results to possibly work their way back to me a little bit and see if that can help me. So don't discount this stuff if you haven't looked at it. There's a lot of information. You go onto FanGraphs, you go onto PitchFX, all this stuff. It's not quite as confusing as Perry's EV, but you can get through it, okay? All right. Vertical movement and horizontal movement, we'll talk a little bit about that. Comparison we'll do some stuff looking at 4 pitchers with the Cardinals. Modeling is a teach. Ron touched upon this. This is huge. This is huge, modeling, okay? It has been around. Inverted W, it's really not an arm issue in my opinion. It can be fixed with some of the stuff that we teach at the ranch, but there's other ways to do it. Synchronization, and then lastly, I want to show you a couple drills that have been really beneficial for me as of late. All right, the ranch has lost its amateur status, so this is a disclaimer, okay? All these pro guys here now, I got to be real careful about what I present. If it was just us amateur guys, I'd give you the ranch, literally and figuratively. But because we have enemy in the group here, you know, the Tampa Bays and the Cubs and the Indians and all these guys, I have to be a little bit careful what I bring out. So that's that little disclaimer that, you know, this email is intended for only, that kind of thing. So that's just a reminder to myself. My new job, DJ touched upon it. I haven't really, I'll be honest with you, I haven't cared if a minor league team won or lost a game in the last 12 years. When I go into a field, as DJ will tell you now, that's secondary to if the team wins or loses. And I have to kind of change course now because wins and losses become important. All I got to do is lose less than 111 games and I'll get renewed next year, okay? And so, I actually have to care if we win or lose. My last dugout presence obviously was with Kansas City in 2002. Obviously we lost because I got my ass fired, but development still takes place at the highest level. It just doesn't stop, and this is where Ron has always had to remind me. I have to in the throes of a rough stretch, which we all go through at times. You have to look for those nuggets. When I was the pitching coordinator for the Cardinals, it was Billy Smith in Johnson City throwing a 2-1 breaking ball for a strike. That was my high. We have to use all the information we can to gain an edge, especially as the teams get better and better. Interview process for the Major League job. Right now, I just checked, I'm the 3rd oldest pitching coach in Major League Baseball with probably the youngest pitching staff in Major League Baseball. Thank God for Dave Wallace with Baltimore and somebody else I think just got a job who's older than me. I need to become competitive again on a daily basis. I've lost that a little bit. I need to get that back. I used to be highly competitive as a player. As a developer, you know, Ron, you know what I'm talking about. It becomes secondary, you know. I used to go in after a tough loss and I'd see the manager like this and the pitching coach, and I'd commiserate a little bit, you know, hey, hang in there, blah, 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 I'm with you all the way, yeah, I'll see you later, I'm heading to the hotel. My guy threw good, okay? I barely passed the competitive test to get the Houston job. The interview process, Flint went through the same interview process. And I thought we'd have some fun with this, with all of you. The interview process, you'd think you go in and say, okay, what's your philosophy on this, 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 and this, and this, and this. And really, I barely passed the competitive test to get the job. Timing is everything, and next year I'll be 66 years of age, so competitiveness. We all are going to take a testosterone test right now. DNA testosterone test, and let's see where we're at as we go. I want each of you right now to take your hand and look at it. If your ring finger is longer than your index finger, you have a ton of testosterone and you will be fine. You will be able to throw your fastball 3-1. You'll be able to throw your fastball 2-0. If your index finger is longer than your ring finger, gentlemen, learn the off-speed pitch as quickly as possible, okay? This is a study that was done, and this is Vegas odds right now. I know what's happening right now. All of those clubs up there, especially let's take the Indian guys for example. Right now, all of those Indian guys are trying to become general manager of the Cleveland Indians. So they're all looking right now, and then they're looking at they're high-fiving their buddy. Mine is longer than yours. And I'll guarantee you what they're all going to do. They're going to go to Chris Antonetti, the GM of the Indians, and they're going to say, hey, Chris, how you doing? Hey, yeah, shit, I'm going to take your job, pal. You know what I mean? So, and they did this study on Top Dog. It's a book called Top Dog, The Science of Winning and Losing. And basically, as you can see, it deals with, there's a ratio here. Thank God mine is a little bit above that. If they had waited with at 66 and we're talking about testosterone, my index finger would have been a lot longer than my ring finger as I get older, okay? I think there's a relationship there. But the large ratio as a pitcher with an index finger longer, I just made a fun, you know, you just need to be, so that's something that they've done. They did this study. It deals with the amount of, when you're born in the uterus, and it's a true thing. So, I mean, kind of have some fun with it as you look at guys. And we went around, I think Coach Knutson will tell you, the guy who had the longest ring finger, we did it with all our pitchers for fun, was Jordan Swaggerty, and I think he would tell you right off the bat he's a highly competitive guy. We had some guys that we thought were competitive, and it was completely opposite. Deliberate practice, determination, and focus. Obviously, this is where most of us are, right over here on the little circle right there. That's where our comfort zone is. We just deal with that situation. We need to have bigger thoughts, move into the bigger zone. I just threw those little things up there. That was Ron. That was Garrett right there. That picture up in the upper, that was Garrett. That's what Ron was doing early in his career. And then I kind of like the focus one down below with the golfer just staying away from things. Vertical and horizontal movement concepts. This has been an important thing for me. My time, Perry has really helped me with this a great deal. We're starting to understand when we look at the really good pitchers this year. I really noticed that this year we happen to have a perfect storm in St. Louis. We had a perfect storm in St. Louis with that group of young pitchers that came up that pitched deep into the playoffs, obviously getting to the World Series. And what most of them do, the majority of them, the Sechrist and the Rosenthals and Miller and as a starter, and then you had other guys, they really deal well in vertical break. And what Perry has been teaching me a little bit is how difficult it is for the brain to recognize vertical action on the ball. We all know that, you know, we all talk about movement and everything, and the brain actually can decipher horizontal movement better than it can vertical movement, and no ball rises. But we're gonna talk a little bit about a way to allow yourself to create zero movement. And what Perry has been trying to pound on me is I want to try and get the Astro pitchers back into understanding that the middle, and he mentioned it yesterday, as soon as he hit it, I said, yeah, get back to not being afraid of the middle of the plate. I think what's happened is we've gotten away from the middle of the plate for certain reasons. I'm going to touch about that in a second. But they have these numbers that you'll see where you're really trying to, Rosenthal and these guys, when they have like a -5, basically what they're talking about is when the ball comes out of their hand, it just doesn't sink as much. And hitters are used to seeing certain pitches. You know, we always hear about this downhill plane, and we hear about all this. And years ago, Perry said to me, why don't you go draft as many 5'6" pitchers as you possibly can? Because they basically are throwing the ball on a different plane than what hitters have been seeing their entire life, which is a downhill plane with an uphill swing. lift swing and everything, and this ball that stays flat is pretty good. And you can be Michael Waka and be 6'6" and create a flat plane. And they talked on the TV about his downhill plane and everything. He does throw from a high angle, but you'll watch as we move forward. So I want you to just kind of keep these in mind. You don't have to worry about all the numbers. Hell, I'm still trying to learn them myself. But just kind of think in terms of throwing the ball straight and creating backspin on the baseball, okay, instead of all this other stuff. Changing of the guard, pitch usage. I just kind of thought this was, I put this together. I think present day we're trying to create some swings and misses. It used to be slider, changeup, curveball, fastball. Verlander, Price, they get swings and misses. I think I read somewhere about 9% of the time on fastballs in the strike zone. 9, those are the two of the best. Swing and miss. Big league hitters do not miss fastballs. And that's why this secondary stuff becomes so important. Kyle Loesch with the Cardinals the year before was getting 2%. So we have to understand we were in the era of the fastball, curveball, straight change. Then it became the split finger with Roger Craig and Bruce Sutter and that group. And then it became the era of the slider. And then it became, now it's the era of the cutter. And the possibility, I just threw this out, there's a possibility that it was the steroid era that created us trying to miss bats in ways that we hadn't in the past. And I think college was exacerbated this also with the metal bats and not wanting to throw fastballs and not wanting to throw. So we were trying to work in ways off the plate, and I think control got better. And then Koufax, I'm sitting having dinner with Koufax, my favorite pitcher of all time, and his quote was kind of interesting. He said, the people who throw sinkers are those that can't throw solid fastballs. And it's not the velocity of the fastball that really makes the difference. It's the spin ratio and things that you can do to the baseball that can get people to, and Perry Husband, take back the middle of the plate. And my goal this year, hopefully, is to get the young Astro pitchers to understand that if we set up a plan, that plan will work regardless of who the hitter is. And so basically, rather than pitching to a particular hitter, you know, I mean, I just saw where the American League West now has 4 of the highest paid players in the game. Cano, Pujols, Hamilton, and Prince Fielder, and they're all in this division. And so, it's basically what I'm going to try and accomplish. Hopefully, as I mentioned yesterday, I get Perry involved because I think what he can bring to the table and be part of this will be important. TrackMan. This TrackMan thing has been really, really good. TrackMan is a device that started out with golf. It was started in Denmark. They have a mobile one now that is going to be available. You can get a lot of information. Fastball spin, the average fastball spin, 2,200 revolutions per minute. What's a good spin rate? Spin correlates to ground ball rate, fly ball rate, swing and misses. You can actually look at the spin rates and determine what kind of pitcher he is without ever seeing the pitcher. And I'll show you that here in a second. Knowing spin helps one understand the type of pitcher you are. There's some numbers right there that you can see. Obviously, less than 2,000 revolutions per minute, you're basically throwing a ton of ground balls and you're not getting many swing and misses. And it moves up as you go higher. So the type of pitcher you are will determine a lot of what you're doing. So you can see when you get to the 2,500 revolutions per minute and above, the strikeout rate, look at the comparison between that and the 2,000. It jumps a high percentage. So TrackMan has shown the average fastball spin is a higher correlation to swinging, and we talked about that. Perry talked about this guy a little bit yesterday, Uehara. Uehara, this is an 89 mile an hour fastball. Obviously below major league average, but it's 227 revolutions per minute faster. And he basically punches people out. I mean, this is phenomenal. And basically what he does to create this is watch how he kind of sits as he goes to throw. He loads up the glute, and we're going to talk about that. One of the big things we're going to talk about, if you watch his right heel, watch how long the right heel stays on the rubber, and he basically throws that. Then he combines that with this right here, and it's a no chance. Both pitches looking somewhat similar as they came out of the hand. Jim Hickey once told me, as you watched Clemens, when he was pitching coach when Clemens was in Houston, he said he'd never seen a guy who threw more 91 mile an hour fastballs knee high that major league hitters took, because as Clemens sat to go and throw, the ball would maintain its plane. The vision of the hitter was thinking that ball's going to be low, and it just kind of maintained its path, and he got a lot of pitches. So this is an example. This guy's exceptional, and obviously velocity is not doing this for him. Here we have, hope it'll go for me. Doesn't look like it wants to. Anyway, this is supposed to be Jake Westbrook. Let me see if it'll go here a second. Well, trust me, I put this on. Jake's out of the game right now, so he's not pitching anymore. He got released. Okay, no, I'm just kidding you. Jake obviously threw. Obviously, he had a hell of a career. He's a good guy. I had Jake with the Expos. Major league sinker at 2070. His is at 1890. This is basically the heavy ball we talk about. What is the definition of a heavy baseball? It's lack of spin and lack of rotation. It's good to be different. Pitchers benefit from being an unorthodox approach. Major league fastball 91 to 2200 with an arm slot, release side extension. I'll show you some Clemens stuff. Hitter's eyes and brains can anticipate how the ball will behave. You know, one of the things that Paul Nyman, who we all know, he emailed me one time. He was at a clinic, and he said there was this guy that was doing a presentation on saying hitting is a guess. And he said, finally, somebody has it. Finally, somebody's got a clue about what they're talking about. And that was his first introduction to Perry Husband. And Paul Nyman said this is basically what he's talking about as far as what hitters try and eliminate things from us. Okay, they're trying to hone us in. You know, when we can't get our breaking ball over, the good hitters eliminate it. When you can't get a ball to the extension side, they eliminate it. That's what they're trying to do to get us into these little corners and these boxes that force us. And I've been there. I know what it's like, and it's not much fun. Hitters' eyes and brains can anticipate how the ball will relate past experiences. You know. Can you imagine how many pitches Pujols has seen in his life? And I remember reading a story when Michael Jordan was in the Arizona Fall League, and he was making, trying to be a baseball player, and he led off one game for the Tucson Javelinas, and the second hitter said, "What was that, a curveball or a slider?" And he went, "I have no clue. I don't know," because he didn't have the past experiences, and that's why you can't start this game at age 14 and decide to be a big league player. It's just not going to happen. Not the way the brain works. Westbrook's low spin rate sinks more than the average fastball. Uehara's spin rate obviously sinks less. That's basically what we're talking about. We're not talking about rise balls here. We are talking about defying gravity. Hitters are trained to see typical pitches. If you throw 89 in our typical, you're in big time trouble. If you throw 94 in your typical, you're still in somewhat trouble, more so than an atypical type pitcher. And we'll show some of these atypical type pitchers in a second. Facts about breaking balls in TrackMan: there's only a slight positive relationship between ball velocity and spin rate. There's no difference between swing and misses on the curveball with a below average spin rate. I often ask people, why is Wainwright such a good breaking ball pitcher? His spin rate is 2,100 revolutions. It's not exceptional. But what does he do with the pitch? He throws it over the plate. The ability to throw an average breaking ball over the plate in even counts or behind in the count sets him apart, and it makes the fastball obviously that much better. I guess I'm imploring guys not to try and get the hammer, the one that everybody goes, wow, look at that thing. Get the ball over the plate is the number one thing. Pitchers with elite spin rates get more swing and misses, but the effect is small. So if it becomes a dice game here, you say, boy, let's get more bite on this ball. Let's get more power on this breaking ball. If you lose the ability to get it over the plate with the attempt to get the ball to spin more and spin faster and throw harder and everything, you're basically hurting your pitcher. You're better off middling that thing and getting back to where you want to be as we go. This indicates that most aspects important to curveball are command of the pitch and keeping the pitch on the initial trajectory as the fastball. Tunneling, high inside fastball, low and away curveball. One of the things I hope to work with Jason Castro, our catcher, in looking at the video is there's a preponderance of extension side fastballs. Away, away, away. We have a tendency to want to run away, especially with the Crawford boxes in these kind of places. We want to, you need to, and one of the things that I often heard was the bigger the hitter is, the more you got to pitch him inside. The more they have to move, the more you should pitch them inside. And it runs away from our natural instinct is to run away from big people, okay? Here we have one of my favorite pitchers. I have absolutely fallen, this guy right to me, and the reason I picked him is there are many different ways to do something here we're talking about. I believe in the Bernstein principle wholeheartedly. I think what he epitomizes is a simple way of moving the lower half and getting his arm in a good position to throw the baseball. And you'll see a chart here. He comes out of the same window. He throws 2% changeups. He throws fastball, slider, curveball. And fastball is a four-seam fastball, throws no sinkers. They're all in a similar horizontal plane, and I'll show you a chart here which will demonstrate. And all this is available to you online when you go to look. But they're three distinct. All three of his pitches look like a fastball in the hand, and the two breaking balls look exactly the same. This is why with 2 strikes, last season he had 75 strikeouts with the fastball, 78 with the slider, 79 with the curveball. So he had 3 ways with 2 strikes to get you out. Okay, it became very difficult for hitters. He gets hitters out in the strike zone. This is an important concept, getting hitters out in the strike zone. One of the things I look for when somebody says, well, my guy's got a great curveball. This is one of the guys, this is why I like Cravey. You guys have heard the story about Kevin Cravey. When Ron brought him to me, Kevin Cravey had a hell of a curveball. What he had was power and depth of the curveball in the strike zone. It wasn't one of those ones that you had to bounce and get a young Latin guy to swing at. Somebody who had never seen a curveball and they're swinging at it because they're chasing. If you get power to the pitch through the zone, which is what Cravey had and which Kershaw has, that is because we know there's 3 dimensions to the strike zone. We have height and up and down, in and out, and depth. The depth becomes huge. Being able to get the ball to the catcher and not have them rely on chases all the time. So this is one of the reasons why Kershaw is good, real good. There's his plot right there. Fastball at the top, slider in the green, and the curveball in the blue. Vertical movement. Vertical movement. Very little horizontal. I'm going to contrast him with some other people as we go forward. This is not, believe me when I tell you this is not to discount horizontal movement. I'm not trying to beat it, but I think we got too much into this and we got away from this. Okay, and I'm just trying to show you ways to, there's value in both as long as you can, as I'm learning, as long as you can have some separation, and we'll talk about this thing called the tongue in a second that'll kind of explain it. So we got Kershaw here and his pitches. And this is not location. Understand, this is movement. So don't view this as location in the strike zone. This is purely movement, up and down, in and out, that type of thing. Shades of Koufax right there, boys. That's shades of Koufax. There's his curveball. Comes out of his hand in a vertical movement pattern. And obviously, look at his delivery as he goes. Very simple. He just basically steps. And we're going to talk about what he does so well. And we can learn from him a little bit. Here's a typical, I'm not going to give the name, this is one of the Astro starting pitchers right here. Can you contrast that plot with what Kershaw had right there? See how things are kind of bunched together? And so no matter how good a pitches you might make in location and everything, if they all start to get bunched together, then it becomes easier for the hitter to hone in on one area, okay? The only pitch that's below is I think the change, the curveball or something that's down below, but everything else is kind of in the same movement pattern. And that's what we're talking about here, okay? Here's Kershaw with the Astro pitcher. That just is a contrast of the 2 charts. You can kind of see what you guys do. So what I have to do with my Astro pitcher is reassess his pitch, what he throws, and see if we can adjust it. Maybe not have to improve anything, just kind of adjust how it's going to be used and when to use it and that kind of stuff. So, sinkers and fastballs, obviously 2-seamers are slower, less backspin. Sinkers are more difficult maybe to elevate. They generate fewer swings and misses because of the visual processing system that we're talking about. Easier for the brain to ID horizontal. I talked about that. So basically, Perry, hitter late, although pitcher must think on time. He showed me something that was amazing to me. I can't tell you how many of you guys have experienced this or not. And this has happened to me. I throw a pitch and a hitter goes to swing at it, and from your vision as a hitter, as a pitcher, you see him right on the ball. You say, oh my God, he just missed that. I better go to something else. Right down the middle. And you go, whew, got away with that one. And Perry showed me by that same pitch with a camera taken at a 90-degree angle to that hitter with that same pitch, that ball is past the hitter. I'm not sure how far what you told me, Perry, but it's by the guy. His brain doesn't recognize, so he thinks he's on it. And he mentioned yesterday that most hitters don't even realize what they're doing. Am I correct? That they don't even realize that they're late. and that ball's already past the guy as he's thinking he's making contact right here. But as a pitcher, that affects you, and you say, well, I better go to off speed here, or I better do something because I can't throw that same pitch because he's on it. So basically what I'm talking about, we're going to show you how to sit, vertically load, get momentum moving forward and squat. Basically, I just put this number down because I'll tell you who does that really well. The best bullpen in baseball, the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals have the best bullpen in baseball in terms of their numbers. And almost all of them, Tim Collins and his group, sit like nobody's business, okay? And I'll show you that. Throw powerful four-seam fastballs, get more swings and misses with the fastball, especially early in the count, develop 2 other pitches, et cetera, we go forward. This guy, as Perry has indicated, is a freak, okay? Darvish. What he can do, and Perry alluded, I'm glad he did, at least Perry didn't show the gift that he talked about yesterday, because I have it coming up next, and that was my ace in the hole. If he'd have shown that gift, then he would have killed my whole program. So this is Darvish right here. Look at the spread and how things are all spread out. He works, when we had that tongue, you either got to be below where they're hitting, or you got to be above where they're hitting, where they're used to seeing the ball. If you get caught in that middle, you're screwed, okay? And so Darvish obviously is awfully good. Let's see if this thing will work for me. And there it is. I mean, there's some unbelievable stuff right there. And I talked to the new pitcher with the Astros, Feldman, who watched him. He said it's unbelievable what he can do with a baseball. And this is online. You can you can go type this in and you can get this gift. But I think it's spectacular. This is kind of the stuff Perry does, where he puts pitchers on top of each other and shows tunnels and this and that. And then they all separate as they get closer. Here's my Astro bullpen. Notice the angle of the backside. The guy in the middle there, Josh Fields, had the highest strikeout rate of anybody on their bullpen. Is it only because he sat to 101 degrees? I don't know. But he threw elevated fastballs and has a hammer curveball. The rest of the guys are more in an upright position as they go to throw. And basically what happens is a lot of times when they're in an upright position, where is their dominating area is their quad. They don't really sit into the glute, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So that's some of the guys we got right there. So those are some of the names. There's the Royals. Outside of the guy on the far right, they sit a little bit more. And the numbers don't belie what they do, okay? Their strikeout rate was the highest in baseball, 26. Lowest ERA, et cetera, et cetera. There's some of their numbers. Strong positive relationship on a vertical movement and strikeouts. As vertical movement moves greater, strikeout percentage gets greater. Major league hitters swing and miss at high fastballs more than low fastballs. What did Perry say yesterday about the hardest hit balls? I think I heard you on the low fastballs, right? Those are the ones that have the highest exit velocity. And yet we keep teaching throwing the ball down in the zone. And very rarely have I watched hitting coaches work on high tee, hitting the ball up here. Where's the soft toss always done for these guys? Right down in this area, and so they become trained, their eyes become trained anticipating those kind of things. So you look at some of their numbers, look at Fields. Fields had the highest vertical movement, 11.16. He also had the highest strikeout percentage at 0.25. Velocities, look at the velocities, they're all fairly similar. Velocities, they're more than half a dozen, they're all kind of similar. So it's obviously not the velocity that makes a difference. Here's some of the guys from history, different guys. If you look at Tommy John, we all know what kind of pitcher. He was a horizontal type pitcher. Look at the tall and fall. Look at Carpenter. A lot of these guys, and what the common denominator is with all those guys? Arm problems. Arm problems. And I did it too. I was going to get on top of my curve, and I was going to work the ball side to side, and ended up having fly out and all kinds of different things. And so, I mean, you look at Mark, the 161. I mean, that's about it. That's almost like a stiff. That's almost. You realize that's only 19 degrees away from dead straight. Stiff back leg. Clemens and Ryan, loading with age. As they got older, possibly physically stronger, whatever, they started to sit even more as they started to pitch, okay? You look at Ryan here, this in the far bottom left, that's him with the Mets in '69. And as he got going, his posture started getting better. And we're going to show you, I'm going to show you how angles become an important thing. Spine angle, back femur angle, this angle here combined with the spine, combined with your arm angle, all these different things become important. While I firmly believe that what's important, what happens between the dots, I also think it's important where the dots are, okay? There are optimum positions for the body to be in. We end up getting ourselves in all these crazy positions sometimes, so if we can simplify it and at least understand it, we might help ourselves a little bit. Here we have 6 of the top 7 relievers in Major League Baseball, outside of Kimbrel, who basically gets people out. He throws hard and everything, but he gets people out with his slider. You got the guys who really sit. You got Holland, Uehara, Chapman, Rosenthal, and Jansen of the Dodgers. 101, 96, 102, and I think that far one, I don't know what Jansen is over spring. What's Jansen over there? He's at 117? No, I mean 100, yeah. And he's in these guys. So basically, they are the numbers they ran on these guys are what they call fielding independent ERAs, and basically they just take strikeouts and things that have where the defense has no bearing on their earned run average, and they're the best in the game. If you look at their FIPs over there, I had to look up what FIP meant, to be honest with you, but. Teaching vertical movement, the biomechanical measure, flexing the stance, the back leg greater than 110 can easily be taught. You do have to get some work done. This is why eccentric training becomes so important. We do everything concentric. Basically what Ron's doing at the ranch is having guys stand on a thing and set themselves down onto the ground, not step off the ground. So when you do these kind of things, the eccentric, everybody I've talked to on the training side of things, and I'm not a extremely knowledgeable guy on all this, but the eccentric training and understanding how the glute comes into play becomes an important thing. And learned. It appears to enable the body to achieve other desirable angles that can produce greater force more effectively. There was a gentleman showed me his force plate thing over here the other day. I thought it was fantastic. And one of the slides I'm going to show you, I'm not a computer guy. I couldn't put this one. If Wes Johnson wasn't here, we wouldn't be having this slideshow right now, okay? But basically the new way they're teaching golf, Oklahoma State, what they start to realize, I'll show you the video, it's quite interesting. And this, we're going to cut after this, but basically at Oklahoma State and these new wave of golfers, they're hitting the golf ball with their heel still on the ground and then coming off after the ball's already left the club, as opposed to what we normally did, which was to rotate off the back foot. And it really likens itself to what you'll see in the next session when we come back, and I'll show you that video to begin with. So we're going to cut it off right there because Sam told me I had to, okay? So.